partnerships with public and private sector partners, sponsors, and financiers. All right, let me give you an overview of what the program looks like. We will first have our welcome and opening remarks by our president, Ms. Diane Edwards, followed by the strategic vision for the Jamaican film industry. That's a presentation by our film commissioner, Mr. René Robinson. And thereafter, we will have a presentation by Ms. Joan Webley on the guide to filming in Jamaica. Along the way, we'll have numerous panel discussions and we will have moderators. So they will go into detail on who is speaking on these panels. So I'm going to invite our president, Mrs. Edwards, Diane Edwards, to come and deliver the welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really glad to see you here. I know it's early for film people, so I think we probably should start at midday. Maybe everyone will be up then. But really good to see those of you who have taken the time to come out this morning. Jampro, as you know, has long been dedicated to the film industry. I think we have, gosh, probably since the inception of Jampro, which is close to 30 years in the film industry promotion business. So we have really witnessed the evolution of the business over several years, and that evolution has gone from attracting inward location filming, and quite a
Well, we're going to start off. I'll do a quick overview just of where we are, what jumping role and responsibility is in education in the film industry, and also what you can expect from us coming forward. And say a quick welcome to everybody who's watching us online, streaming through live with me. This was a new thing that we started last year as well, and so we're trying to make sure that we're getting our technology to work for us. So I'm really happy to be able to do our online streaming and our online registration to make sure that we are moving into the future as we're going, right? Alright, so what does Jamtro do? And I find that this is always a good way to start the presentation because there's a lot of every conversation that I have, I get the types of questions of, oh, well, why aren't you doing this or why aren't you doing that? So I think we should just talk a little bit about what is Jamtro and what does Jamtro actually do. Our purpose is to build global relationships and realize business opportunities. Obviously, the organization is structured in that it has multiple sectors as well as different promotions within the promotional unit. So film is one of the promotional units within the Jamtro organization. But we also, as an organization, support other sectors, including things like tourism, agribusiness, mining, energy. So when people come into this big building and you see, oh my goodness, all of this is Jamtro, what it really means is that there are multiple sectors that are at work, and each of those sectors have small sector teams of probably about 3 or 4 people. So it might look like the organization is massive and really, but everyone who's working in the sector is really a very lean team. And we get support from other auxiliary departments such as marketing unit or our policy unit and advocacy. So we do have some intersections, but I do want to make the point that whenever you see any of the work that's being done by Jamtro, it is sector-based. And it really is being supported by a very lean and lean team in each of those sectors. Our vision is to be a world-class business enabler of community agency, making Jamaica a premier destination to do business. One of the ways that we like to think about it is the same way that the Jamaica Tourist Board promotes Jamaica as a tourism destination. Jamtro's role is to promote Jamaica as a business destination. So that's one of the equivalencies that we usually see. And our mission is to drive Jamaica's economic development through growth, investment, and export. So we're a trade agency. We're a trade promotion agency, and we report on things like investment and reporting on things on export. Now, obviously, being a part of the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation has delivered, has sort of created a slant and a lens through which we do our work. Our main goals at the end of the day, the things that we report on to national growth relate to the creation of jobs and to the development of the economy. We've been guided towards our general 5 and 4 targets. Now, I'm sure everyone has heard about this through the Economic Growth Council. We've been given very aggressive targets as an organization to fulfill this, to increase investment up to $2.5 billion by 2020, to create 100,000 additional jobs between now and 2020, and to increase exports of goods, export of services also included, but to increase exports of goods up to 2.5 billion also in 2020. So we're actually, this target was started, we're no longer 5 and 4, I think we're now 5 and 2.5 or something like that. So we're looking for 5% growth and our time frames are shortened. So we do have very aggressive targets, and because of that, the organization has structured itself in such a way to really highlight some of that focus. We've recently gone through a little bit of corporate restructuring, and I'll get to where the film commission sits in this, but I want to paint a little bit of a picture for you about how we are incorporated into the larger scheme of things. So our corporate imperatives as an organization are to actively promote and enable exports and investment, to build global business relationships, as I mentioned before, to foster and enable business environments, and to nurture and gain high-performing collaborative teams. These are the imperatives that follow through everything that the organization So these are the imperatives that align to everything that the organization does, and it permeates through the ways of working that we have and the modes of how we process and how we produce and how we provide the service, how we deliver our services. So we've been given targets that we need to accomplish between now and 2020. And number of these jobs, so these have actually all been broken out year by year, and our fiscal year is from April 1st to March 31st. So these have been broken out as corporate and strategic targets over the next 3 main fiscal years. Obviously, with a major goal, a strategic goal of creating jobs for Jamaica, but also corporate goals as it relates to creating jobs by example clients. So it's recognized that, for example, there are other mechanisms within the architecture where jobs are created, economies are grown, or foreign or investments are delivered. But so there's a difference between what is considered strategic targets for Jamaica as well as corporate targets, for example. And I think this is important to know because this is the breakout of how we determine how we deliver our services. So what does that mean for the Film Commission? So the Film Commission, as Diane had mentioned earlier, was established for a long time. Established in 1984, it has gone through a variety of different iterations, looking at originally attracting destination filming. We also do quite a bit of work in the very work in terms of just sector development, training, getting local stakeholders up to scratch to deliver. And now we've pivoted now into a dual portfolio. So we do production facilitation for screen-based projects, but there also is a sales and promotion portfolio for the film, animation, and music sector for Jamaica. So what this means is that this is the portfolio where we need to drive business and drive economic growth. Realize this mandate through the delivery of initiatives, but the key thing behind all of those initiatives is that their role is to increase investments, export, trade, and employment. Sounds like a very far cry from the creative industries as we know it, right? So this is the road that we have to walk along. We have to be able to balance that the sector development that is needed. We have to be able to balance the creative economy. We have to be able to balance the development of our portfolios and the development of our talent and our content. We have to be able to balance the attraction of destination filming, and we have to be able to balance general econometrics and econometric data, which is used to determine growth for the country. All right, now our team. You guys know me already. I'm Renee Robinson. I'm the Film Commissioner and head of the Film, Animation, and Music Unit here at JAMPRO. We also have Tristan Alain, who is right over here. He's waving over there. So he's our Senior Sales and Promotions Officer. We have Stefan Chang, who is running the projection behind there. So our Sales and Promotion Officer, and Tiffany Lindo, who is over here, who is going to be our chair for the event for today. So this is the team, as I'd mentioned earlier. All of the sector teams within JAMPRO are quite small. And so what we do for our clients and for the country is really quite a bit of a feat, to be honest. All right, so our imperatives. Now, I showed you what the imperatives are for the organization, and I want to show you now how that is distilled into what we do. So there's literally a waterfall, there's a cascade process where we look at what are the goals of the country, what are the goals of the organization, and then how does that feed into the goals of the unit.
So for us, our imperatives, and this is for the next 3 years. So I'm presenting to you our 3-year plan right now. You guys are getting a sneak peek at this. This hasn't even become public information right now. So you're getting a sneak peek at the 3-year plan for the Film Commission. We are going to be creating more jobs for Jamaicans who are working in the screen-based industries. That is something that we are mandated to do. It's something that we're mandated to monitor and track, and something that we design initiatives around in order to realize that goal. We are stimulating financing and routes to market for commercially viable creative content, and I think that's a key thing, because we are interested more in quality versus quantity. So I know we're still in that process of creating content, of making sure that people have access to tools of creation and to the skill set for production. But the key thing is that if we really want to be able to push the needle, we have to be able to create commercially viable content. So that's going to be a key thing for us. And also understanding that in the global economy, it is that type of commercially viable content that will actually be able to benefit from the financing and the routes to market. So we need to create a work back model so that we know that this is where we want to go, and in order to be there, this is how we need to get there. And then another major imperative for us over the next 3 years is going to be to legitimize the ecosystem to reflect global best practices and greater competitiveness. As Diane had mentioned when she started, I've been living overseas for a decade, and have been fortunate to have had a knowledge base and an expertise in global best practices in other film industries. And so that is one of the things that is of personal importance to me, is to make sure that we are globally competitive and that we are aligned to the way that the rest of the creative economy is doing business out there in the world. We are an island, but we don't function as one. And if we are going to be able to trade, compete, become a part of the global economy, then we need to start standardizing certain types of processes, and we need to put certain types of building blocks in place so that we can actually be globally competitive. So that's going to be a very important initiative for me, just making sure that our ecosystem is viable, is stable, and is competitive. All right, so just to break down what that from our first, so we have SI strategic imperative number 1, and this is for the 17 to 20 fiscal years. So obviously, in terms of creating more jobs, one of the things that we're going to be doing is pursuing and facilitating productions. Now, that is something that we already do. It is part of our DNA. It is how we function. It's how we operate. So this is a standard thing. This is what you're all very familiar with already. You might also be familiar with some of the productions that have come through recently, and there are more down the pipeline. In all of my travels, when I go on a promotional tour to a film festival or to visit investors or anything like that, the conversations that are had are, how do we come and shoot in Jamaica, or what type of content do you have that we can now explore there? So there's that back and forth, and there's a global connectivity that we're trying to deliver by facilitating productions, both local and international. And I really need to stress that, because for a long time we were not focusing on the development of local content, and I think it's really important that for us to be able to represent ourselves as a player internationally, then we do need to have strong local content as well. Pursuing infrastructure and capital expenditure projects. Now, we've had a little bit of interest from several CapEx projects. Now, these would be infrastructure, things like people who want to set up studios here, or if they're looking for delivering other types of, whether it is physical bills or digital bills. So we've also been talking to quite a few digital platforms that are looking to set up shop in Jamaica. They want to be able to deliver Jamaican content or Caribbean content, and that's what we consider an infrastructure project. So whether it is a physical build, which would be the studios, or if it's a digital build, which would be the platforms, that is some of the work that we're engaging with. Those are some of the clients that we're building relationships with. pursue distribution opportunities for content and talent. Now, this is a new thing, and one of the things that I think is important is as we start developing our local content, we need to be able to be better at negotiating for that content. When I came in, I had so many calls from filmmakers who, said, "Oh my goodness, I signed this awful deal. I'm now tied up in this particular thing," and I'm not a lawyer. We have lawyers in the room. But the minute I looked at that contract, my reaction was, why would you sign this? Just basic, why would you sign this? So it's clear that we don't have the level of skill that we need in things like contract negotiation. One of the ways that we can stimulate that is to do umbrella negotiations. So one of the conversations that we are trying to advance is particularly with whether it is traditional or digital platforms, to be able to create an umbrella contracting process so that any local content that is vetted and comes through the Film Commission would have access to a standard contract that has already been negotiated on your behalf. So those are some of the things that we're trying to do. Now, of course, that's not going to come on stream right now. It's a bit of a back and forth process, but the goal behind it is that we want to make sure that as individual practitioners that you're getting better deals, because right now your deals suck. So that's one of the things that we want to try to advance and to push. And then, of course, promoting local catalogs. And catalogs is an umbrella term. We can look at catalogs as it relates to inventory of talent. Now, this could simply be working with our casting agencies to understand who is out there, who is working as talent, who is looking for international opportunities, and how do we streamline them so that they are actually being put in front of international casting agents. So that's one opportunity. Or if it's catalogs of local content. So does that mean that local content becomes registered with the Film Commission, and so when we go on a trade mission, we now have a sizzle reel that shows, a standard, all of the different types of content? Do we create a mechanism where we can function technically as So these are some of the thoughts that we are pursuing, with the goal in mind that at the end of the day, these types of initiatives will result in the creation of more jobs for Jamaicans who are working in the screen-based industries. Our second initiative, stimulating financing and routes to market. As I mentioned, being commercially viable is a key thing for us. We are, as many of you would know, we've been going through the process of developing a national film fund. I can speak about that a little bit later. It still is in the process. We have reached the stage of cabinet submission, and we are actually about to launch a TOR, a terms of reference, for a consultant to actually come and write the fund. Because one of the things that we know is that the process of writing a fund is not something that governments do. There are entities across the globe who actually come in and who write national funds. So we looked at examples in Ireland, we looked at examples in South Africa, in Colombia, in Mexico, in New Zealand and Australia. So we've been looking at some of our counterpart creative economies to see how they instituted their funds, how they were written, how they were designed. So we have a framework of what we want to deliver the fund with, but at the same time knowing that a public-private fund will need to have an intersection with financing, with financiers, so for them to be able to understand that if you put X percentage into the fund, then you get back a return at this rate within this time frame. And so all of those little granular details are the things that we're bringing on a fund expert to write the national fund. Pursuing production offset agreements. Now, this is something that is in the works, but I think this is one way that we can offset the fact that Jamaica does not have a tax incentive. And this is the thing. People always talk about, oh, we need a tax incentive, we need a tax credit, we need a tax incentive. It's not going to happen. Let's just get that out of our minds. It's not going to happen. Let's forget about it and move on. right? It's not going to happen. So what can we do, knowing that that is not going to happen? What can we do to now create greater competitiveness? One of the things we can do is to create production offset agreements. And what this means is negotiating island-wide to say with all of our hotels, for example, if a production is coming through the Film Commission, then they are entitled to a 15% discount within these dates. Something as simple as that. Production offset agreements can be done for any service delivery, any service provider, for caterers, for drivers, for hotels, for airline partners. Any service provider can have a standard production offset agreement, and this would be available to both local productions and international productions. These are some of the things that we need to be doing to offset the fact that our infrastructure isn't going to change. We need to increase the quantity and quality of local content and access to market. The way that we're doing this is through the delivery of signature programs. Many of you are familiar with the JAFTA Propeller. I see some propellants in the room. And so this is a signature program that identifies, it's a partnership with the Jamaica Film and TV Association and the Chase Fund with JAMPRO. And it identifies 5 filmmakers per year, provides them with capacity building, production funding, and market attendance at a regional and an international market. So they produce 5 films, 5 short films, and then they get a chance to take them out into the world to get that experience of networking and talking about your film and identifying partners for future development. So that's a signature program that we will continue. That's going to continue. The business of sustainability for studios. This is our BOSS project. So this is another signature program that we designed recently, and this is relating to the animation industry. And the key behind this one is to make sure that one of the things that we've noticed is that many people go into creative businesses. They start their own company. They're very good at their technical craft. So they're skilled as an animator, but then they start a business, but they're not business people, and they don't have MBAs, they don't know how to run a business, they don't have experience in running a business. But there's certain things when it comes to being sustainable and growing as an individual company that you do need to know. And so this BOSS project is essentially a way to deliver business skills to creative entrepreneurs. So we're going to be launching this in the coming months, and this is a partnership with the World Bank and the YEDI project, which is Youth Employment in Digital and Animated Industries. It's been approved, the financing has been found for it. We're literally about to go out to find a coordinator to start putting the implementation in place. So that's moving. That's going to happen in the next few months. Building deeper relationships. Now, this is always a challenge, but I think it depends on, it's partly we need to be able to have the type of content and we need to be able to be competitive in order to show that we have value add for those relationships. So historically, the relationships have been skewed, where it is that we are looking for something from a partner, but we actually need to be able to be bringing equal partnerships to any of these relationships. So that's one of the things that we're building. Now, obviously, an international profile helps with this, and the inward and outward trade missions that we do conduct, which maybe many people do not know about, but they do happen. A lot of times we'll have productions that come here, and one of the things that we do for them is we set them up with production meetings. So we'll do an open call, identify professionals who are working in the space who might be a good fit for this particular project or this partnership, and we literally set them up in one of our meeting rooms, and at 10 o'clock they're meeting a location manager, at 11 o'clock they're meeting a production manager, at 12 o'clock they're meeting a casting agent. So these are some of the things that we do to make sure that our production personnel have access to international projects. And the more that stakeholders are engaging with JAMPRO and with the Film Commission, is the more that these opportunities become available. I mean, if we don't know what work you're doing, then we can't recommend you for something. So it's a two-way conversation that we're trying to have with production personnel. And these are the things that we are doing in order to stimulate financing and routes to market. Our final imperative And I like to do things in threes. It's kind of easy to remember. I mean, I know it's kind of wordy as well, but it's a little bit easier to remember. So we want to legitimize the ecosystem to reflect best practice and competitiveness. And as I mentioned, this is of personal importance to me. I think if we don't have proper systems and structures in place, then that is one of the reasons why we keep waffling and turning and changing direction every couple of years. It's because the systems are not in place. Once the systems are in place, then we have a structure to follow, we have a path to follow, and after that it's just pure growth. So this is going to be a really key thing that I'm going to be focusing on. Now, amending the film licensing regime, many of you know that we used to fall under the MPRS. It's the Motion Picture Recognition Status. That was repealed in 2013. And as a government, we are still navigating the effects of that. A new act was implemented, the Fiscal Incentives Act, and when we have our session with the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, we'll go a little bit more into detail in that. But the change and that switch has affected our stakeholders, and it is something that we are trying to now understand. How do we navigate it? How do we make ease of doing business within the new regulations that are in place? So we'll be talking about that. Now, we plan to include local productions in the film licensing regime. Currently, it's only international productions that are required to submit their registration papers. One of the things that we are trying to do is to make sure that it is going to be economically viable. So I don't anticipate that the fees that are charged to international productions will be the same fees that are charged for local productions. So that is something that we're trying to work through now. But the key thing is that right now, because local productions are not required to come through the Film Commission for their processing, we have no true sense of the economic impact of this industry on national GDP. And that's a major problem. It's a major problem. Everything that JAMPRO is reporting on right now as it relates to the creative sector is only as it relates to activity that comes from overseas. So all of you who are working on the ground right here in Jamaica, using your own money and your own crew and paying for your own equipment and all of that work and all of those linkages that are going back into the economy, they don't exist. It doesn't exist. We need to fix that. That's a major, 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 major problem. So one of the things that we're going to do about that is to create a mechanism for local productions. And very simple. I mean, as you guys see, I'm all over the technology. We had an Eventbrite for you to register. Our film registration is now online. It's no longer paper forms. You can upload all of your documents. I don't do double work, right? And I'm trying to make sure that you guys don't have to do double work too. But we do need to find a mechanism to capture the economic impact of the work that you are doing. So as we roll that out, I'm going to ask for your collaboration and cooperation as we put these new systems in place, because the more data and the more that we're able to reflect the true economic impact of the work that you are doing is the more that we're going to be able to advocate for policy changes and for financing. So we need to get that data and that financial data in from you. One of the things that we're trying to pursue is the Film Commission as a one-stop shop. We recently had a CASO consultancy. CASO is the Canadian Executive Services Organization, and I see some of the partners that we consulted with are here as well and will be speaking about their roles in the ecosystem later. But we envision an ecosystem in which you as production personnel should be able to come to JAMPRO for one license. And we will work out with all of the other licensing agencies. So, we envision that. It's something that's being done in other countries. I mean, obviously, we need to work out very directly with the other licensing agencies to make sure that that there's no change to how they would normally, the documentation that they would need or the fees that they need. So it would more be that we are a brokerage, essentially, where we would collect and collate, and then we would disperse. So you pay one time, as opposed to coming to us. You pay here, you go over to Spectrum, you pay over at Spectrum, you go over to this place, you pay over there. So those are some of the things that we're trying to create efficiencies within the next 3 fiscal years. Um, Publishing and disseminating the guide to filming in Jamaica. And our consultant, Joan Webley, is here, so she has been engaged to produce that guide. And she'll be speaking about that a little bit later. But I have to say, again, this is something that is long overdue, long overdue. I know Carol Beckford had pushed this as well, and I'm very pleased to continue that initiative. This is one of those things that I think we've long overdue. We need to have done this a long time ago. And then, of course, collaborating with industry associations and our public partners. We work with JAFTA very closely. We work with JAN, which is the animation network. We work with JAN very closely. We do have relationships as well with Juria and with now the Federation of Music and all of the other entities. But I think it's really key that we all are singing from the same songbook and going in the same direction at the same time. So there's a collaboration that we need to deliver. And I know also with our ministry partners, with MCJES and with MyCAF, and of course with Mega JC, we want to be able to collect baseline sector data, labor data, econometric data, working with Statin to make sure that at the moment everything in the creative sector is lumped into one line item called other services. So these are some of the things. I know Dania, you might probably speak about that a little bit, because there is an initiative from the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports to disaggregate that and to make sure that we actually are able to pull data that shows the work that you are doing. So those are some of the things that are going to be important over the next 3 years as we aim to legitimize the ecosystem. All right, I don't want to spend too much time, but I will take you a quick walkthrough on what kind of services we do and how we work, how we function. Obviously, when it comes to production facilitation, now this is both local and international. Some of the services that we offer, obviously we do the film registration, we do licensing support, partner interventions, we do B2B meetings, which is what I mentioned before, where we set up production facilitation meetings. We do investor go-sees for viable projects. So it's not every project that comes to us and says, hey, I'm looking for financing. We do the due diligence, we make sure that the business plan is in place and the packages are ready, because we have very tenuous relationships with investors. And so if we are presenting half-baked projects to them, then we will lose that credibility. So we don't do investor go-sees for anyone unless it is absolutely covered all the due diligence and it is ready to be seen by an investor. But we do that. We offer the signature programs that I mentioned, and of course we're moving forward on funding and financing and developing things in the ecosystem. And the result of that type of activity is we record it in terms of film production expenditure. So we anticipate that the better that we are able to deliver these type of services is the higher the budget and higher volume of film production that is going to be expended in the country. Now, whether it is local or international doesn't matter. And also it's going to result in a greater number and increasing jobs. From the CapEx and the infrastructure projects, now obviously, as I'd mentioned, these are studio builds or digital builds, so working with platforms or working with actual infrastructure. We do asset searches, so if a project comes to us and it's a studio and they want to set up, we were working with, for example, there was the Goodyear program. I think many of you might be familiar with it. It's a little bit in transition right now, but we help them with their asset search to identify locations that are suitable. We do the productive input relief, which some of you are familiar with. So this is where you come into us and we stamp your invoices so that you can actually import your equipment. We do inward missions for any of these capital expenditure projects, B2B meetings, investor go-sees, and also the ecosystem. And the goal for us, what we report on when we do that type of activity, is capital expenditure and, again, jobs. And capital expenditure is, we look at it as physical investment. So it's equipment, it's land, it's, anything that has a physical dollar value on it in terms of investment. And then on the distribution side of things, so this is what I'd mentioned about making sure that there are avenues for talent and content to have routes to market, to be seen globally. Obviously, I want to develop a local inventory or a catalog, and this could be for talent or for content. And of course, none of these things have to be necessarily JAMPRO driven. If there is a private initiative to do these types of things as well, we'll support it. Because we do know that it's a broad ecosystem. I know, for example, there is currently an initiative to develop a digital platform that shows talent. So, we're working with them. So if any of the things that I'm talking about, this is just sort of the larger scope of what needs to be done. But if any of you are working in any of these areas, then please come and talk to us and let's do it together. FAM tours, familiarization tours, making sure that people come here, that they see what the benefit of being a part of the Jamaican business economy is. National delegations, some of you have participated on our national delegations. We go to TIFF every year, so that is something that will continue for film-based projects. And we're starting to develop a roster of where we're going to be going for animation-based projects. There's a kids screen delegation that's going to be going off to Miami next month. And then some of the other things that we're looking at as well are Annecy in France for animation in June, and also MIPCOM in October. So we're looking at different delegations. We go to Trinidad every year in September, and we go to TIFF every year in September. And we're also trying to identify another major international, probably at the beginning of the year, might be either a Sundance, a Berlin, or a Rotterdam. But we will be planning at minimum 2 national delegations each year for film and for animation. And then working with other sectors to see how we can plan other types of national delegations. The key thing with a national delegation is that we have limited funding, so we don't cover the costs of that. We create the umbrella parameters, we do the negotiation, we might get a discount on different things, but the national delegations, it's up to you to be able to self-fund. So they're open. If you are willing and able to join the Film Commission as we go to market, then you're welcome to join us. And I'll be able to release the list and the roster of what we're going to be doing. I'll be able to do that later this year. Well, actually in the next couple of weeks, because our fiscal year starts in April. So by April, there'll be plans for all of these things that will be able to be released. And then what we report from this type of activity is export sales, sale of services, and the number of contracts. This is a new KPI for the organization. And so I do need to ask for your collaboration on this as well, because we are going to need to. We know that the more this type of activity generates contracts for you, is the greater we can show that there's actual movement. We're not asking for the value of the contract. We know that that is your B2B, we're not interfering in your business, but we do want to know whether or not you are signing contracts. So whether or not you are negotiating deals and whether or not those deals are solid. So that's one of the things that we are going to start asking of our clients and of our stakeholders. And then, of course, jobs. Can't get away from it. Everything that we do is supposed to create more jobs. Is that it? Oh wait, no. I have one more slide here, but it doesn't seem to be loading so well. But the final slide, which is not loading, was essentially an impact map. So a mapping of how each of these different activities that we're going to be doing, how they feed back up into the larger corporate and national strategies and national plans, because I think it's important for, actually, there we go. I really just need this to happen at once. All right, so just so you can see, and the reason that I put this slide in here is because I want to leave with you that nothing that we do is ad hoc. Everything that we do within this organization has a mechanism behind it and has a structure and has a way to feed into national development goals, which I think is really important for you all to know, that we're not in this organization sitting around and saying, hey, okay, well, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this, oh, what about that? We're not jumping around on lily pads. We actually have very, very specific structures in place within this organization and the ways that we want to be able to work in order to deliver services that now meet goals. So when I do tell you no, there's a reason. When I say we can't do that, or that's not within our plan, that's not within our agenda, there's a reason. It's because we have become a very, very streamlined and focused organization, and we're going to be able to we're going to be able to only deliver impact if we focus on the way to do that. So this is really what I wanted to drive home with that. And with that, just to give you a final slide now, the summary of the big ticket items. These are the things that you can expect to come on stream within the coming months or within the fiscal year. We're going to be advancing the film fund. The film licensing regime is going to be amended. And as you know, the signature programs that we have started, JAFTA Propeller, and also the BOSS project, which is going to be launched in the coming weeks. These are going to be big ticket items that you can expect out of the Film Commission in the next months and within the next 3-year period. So that is it. I know this wasn't the most fun of presentations, but I think it's important that as an industry, we kind of see what the vision is and how we plan to get this industry where it needs to be, and where we see the intersection from you and what we need from you to be able to get there. All right? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Renee, for that thorough and detailed presentation on what it is that we do as a film commission, and also the bigger picture in terms of JAMPRO's mandate and also what we can do for you. All right, just a bit of housekeeping, everyone. Before we go into our first speaker for the day, I just wanted you guys to know that we have a lunch break for 1.5 hours, and that will be from 12 to 1:30. And subsequent to that, we will have another brief break. All right. So our next presenter is Joan Webley. She will be sharing some information with us on a publication that's being developed called A Guide to Filming in Jamaica. And what the purpose of this is, as it says, just a guide to filming in Jamaica. And it will provide a formal outline of the processes and policies that will impact the local and international content creators who wish to produce screen-based content in Jamaica. All right, let me just tell you a little bit about Joan. She is the founder of the social enterprise Nanook, and this was founded in 2008. And she served on the board of creative production and training. She joined the team at the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office as a manager of copyright and related rights. During her time with the organization, she supported the development of the local film industry through seminar collaborations with JAMPRO Film Commissioner, and regionally through participation in the development of a model co-production agreement. In 2013, Ms. Webley returned to Nanook, piloting a hub and incubator for the local music, film and animation and other creative industries. Over the course of several years, Ms. Webley and Nanook have facilitated castings, shootings, screenings and legal documentation for local and international film and TV productions. I now invite her to come and share with us on A Guide to Filming Jamaica.
Okay, thank you very much, Tiffany, and good morning, everyone. It is a real pleasure to be here this morning. I have, as Tiffany has just made, that introduction was a bit of a surprise, but as she has just shared with you, I have had a long and ongoing relationship and affinity for local film industry, so having the opportunity to work with and collaborate with JAMPO in this regard in preparing or creating what is Jamaica's first official guide to filming in Jamaica has been a real honor. This morning, I will be very briefly not going through all of the content, but really trying to share with you what is being developed and get a sense of your feedback and your feelings towards the direction that this is going in. That's my task today. My task has been handed over by our film commissioner, Renee Robinson, which was really to research and develop this manual that would serve as, the name states, a guide to filming in Jamaica. The purpose of the manual, as Renee and of course the head of JAMPRO has mentioned this morning, is twofold. The purpose of all our efforts are twofold. To facilitate and increase productions coming from foreign or coming from overseas into our local market, but also to protect or to promote the local productions. And so you'll see in the two designs that will be presented today, two options, that has been our main mission, to create a book or a tool that will be utilized in those two ways. I know some of the persons in the audience today, but can I get a feel for anyone or the persons that have actually visited some of the delegations or overseas international film arenas that Renee spoke to just a while ago? Is there anyone in the audience that has attended a MIPCOM or a CAN or something of comparable nature? There are a few of us here, and I'm sure many more on the stream online. So we would be, I hope, to some extent familiar with these kinds of a booklet. And for those of you who aren't, this is really what I call equipping yourself to succeed. Renee has really laid out what for me was a very impressive window or insight into JAMPRO's activities and plans for us in the coming year. But it's about equipping yourself to succeed. When she goes there and she makes those representations on behalf of our industry, on behalf of our producers, what we are hoping on this end to do is to leave her with a tool that she can leave with everyone that she meets. Something that will give them a window and an ongoing connection to our film industry. So, it has many intended uses, this guide, but primary, as I will continue to state, is to give information and access to our industry. I must note here that this guide was not developed from scratch by me or my team. We actually joined this process. Dr. Shelley Morgan spearheaded efforts before this. But what I'm showing with you here, or what I'm hoping that you're seeing, and can I go back to our first slide? Can I get an indication from those present, initial reactions to this slide? Are we in favor? This is the cover, or this is one of the options for the cover of the guidebook. I will go to our next slide before asking. I think we would all be quite aware. I'm hearing some murmurings and rumblings. I see a few noddings of the head. For me, I am very, very enthusiastic about this design. I think it captures, or I think it's something that's very provocative, something that walks that thin line between a traditional or a nostalgic sort of view. It's something that someone would want to hold on to, someone would want to keep. So with our, excuse me? Absolutely. Well, we have another option, so I'll keep going. I do hear you. So we have two options. With our first option, the designer's intention was to create something that straddled those two lines between information and promotion by creating a book that was filled with content but was almost like a coffee table collectible. So that's what you're going to be seeing with this first design. Next slide, please. Content will be in these four main categories, and this is how it has been structured throughout the book. So as you're seeing, this will be a veritable one-stop shop for information on how to produce in Jamaica, how to produce a film in Jamaica. What is the Film Commission? What does it do? Locations to Jamaica, as we know traditionally or historically, this has been our focus. But as you can see in the third section, we showcase our local industry a lot more. So that has been another aspect of the content creation and development. Speaking to who are the players, who are the agencies in our film industry, our television industry, our animation sectors, webisodes, etc. Finally, and for me most importantly, we look at the government regulations. For anyone that has tried to produce a film, not just here, but really anywhere around the world, you understand that this is one of the chief areas that we're continually trying to navigate. What is the best, most efficient, most productive, most affordable way to produce your film? How do you stretch that production budget? And a lot of the times, navigating government regulations is one of the hugest hurdles. So the attempt here The undertaking is to group all relevant bits of information for a filmmaker in one convenient location. I hasten to add that the task that we have undertaken is not just to prepare a physical production, but Renee and the team have also asked for a digital version. I make this point because the intention of the writers and myself is to ensure that the book includes links to these external bits of legislation. So if you're viewing a soft copy, you'll be able to click through and go and see what information is relevant to you in your production. Next slide, please. At this point, I'd like to take a brief pause. This is included in the book just for you to have an understanding that throughout the book, it is grouped into these 4 chapters, but there will be intermittent pages. So again, in keeping with the theme, this is a bit of nostalgia. I'm hoping that there's no one in the room that's too young that they don't recognize what this screen is. Hashtag JBC. I think there are more than a few of us that would have fallen asleep to this. In the day. And what we will be doing is interspersing pages like this throughout the book. The reverse side will be blank. And this is somewhere for the person reading to take notes in the margin to refer to where they'd like to get back to. But for me, I included this pause in the presentation because I did not want to forget that this is not a solo effort. And at this point, I really want to mention and big up the team that has been working with me to help to assist the Film Commission to create this guide. This design in particular was developed, or this design concept was developed by Station Daly from our team. Or one of our writers from the writing team, Miss Leslie Ann Welsh, is here in the audience as well. We're being assisted with editing by Anika, and Menine Marsh, who created Jamaica's Geographical Indications design, is also a member of our design team. So you know that your best and your brightest are assembled and working to make sure we have something that looks right and represents Jamaica. Next slide, please, Stefan. Okay. In the second, this is an indicative page. So what I'm trying to do is give you a sense of the type of layout that will be included in this book. Again, this first version or this first option is designed to be part guide, part coffee table collectible. What you'll notice here, and I hasten to add that all of these photos included are indicative. We will be working with not just JAMPRO's Film Commission, but with JAFTA to finalize what images are actually utilized. But what I wanted to share with you is that we're making an effort to ensure that whilst we give persons information about our industry, we also provide access points and peak interest. So this photo is actually a scene from the film. This is an earlier version of the draft that was included. So this is a photo from the film Destiny. And how I know it's an earlier draft, because what we've done in our later revised draft is that this section here, you see the box that she's framed with, which is, I guess, reminiscent of a framing in the old video cassette labels and stickers. What we have now done is that in that white section of the box, it will include information about the film itself. So not only, of course, making sure that the intellectual property rights are respected, but again, providing a promotional tool to the actual local production and producers. So this is an example. It's indicative of how we intend to intersperse and really embed our industry and our Jamaican vibe into this film guide. Next slide, please. Again, another page. We have mentioned that movies will be included, but I want to really stress and reinforce that we're not just saying come to Jamaica as a location. We're saying, as Renee stressed earlier, come to Jamaica to do business. So for example, this is one sector industry page, layout with a bold graphic, something that's grabbing, something that's quite beautiful and intriguing, and most importantly, filled with information about our local producers. This page speaks to animation industry and lists a few of the actual agencies that are involved in the animation industry in Jamaica. You no longer have to worry or wonder who is here in Jamaica and who is ready for business. And this would be the final or the back cover of the book. So if you understand, this is the first option that's being presented. The front cover was a video cassette. Reminiscent, this would be the back cover, so when the person actually sees it or it's on a coffee table, the hope or the intention is for it to look like an old VHS and for it to pique interest and inspire desire or curiosity to look and keep looking inside. This is one option for the Guide to Jamaica that is currently under development. Our next option It's a little bit more clean, a little bit more modern or contemporary. I hope Mr. Basil is having a look at this screen. So in this cover, this option for the cover, we again, very boldly, we go with Jamaica, that signifier, that very identifiable world brand. And it's covering over quite a few scenes. So we have Destiny represented there. There's The Harder They Come, Third World Cup. These were all, again, instructive or demonstrative of the type of feel, and it shows that Jamaica is vibrant, Jamaica is producing, and Jamaica has content. This is another sample. Are there any first impressions? You love this one? Minister loves this. People, you're against me. I have more enthusiasm for this second option so far. Okay, this one is of more interest. The next slide, please, Stefan. This would be the layout of this version. So this was comparable to the first option I showed you where there was a scene from Destiny. This is another scene, I believe. Can anyone correct me? This movie is, thank you very much. This is Lady Sky, a scene from that movie. Again, this is an earlier draft. In the final draft that we're working with now, the same copyright information or information about the film would again be listed in one of the spaces by the V. So it would, of course, directly attribute the rights of the creator of that work, but more importantly, be able to inspire a reader of the guidebook to go and access this creative content. And that's our inspiration, that's our intention. So I'll hasten to add that going back to our objective, the design ethos behind this concept is really to split between a guidebook information and a magazine, something that's more vibrant, more eye-catching, and more readily relatable to the average reader. Next slide, please. In that way, this is how the animation contacts page is now displayed in the more magazine-style layout. So again, you'll see we've put some characters, we've showed what this is about, and it's the same content and information that is being presented there. A few 5 or 4 studios have been listed there with their director, their contact information. And that's it. So that is the second option for the guidebook. I, at this point, just want to hasten to add that there is some ongoing work that is being done. There's continued revisions or rewriting to the draft. However, whether or not the individuals actually seated here today have been a part of that process, I am ensured that there has this guidebook is as a result of extensive consultations by the industry throughout the preceding year. So what will be coming to you is a well-written, well-researched, a comprehensive guide. This is the aim, this is the intention. However, if there's anyone that is seated here who has a concern or believes that they have something that would be of real interest or importance for inclusion, I would love to hear from you. I would love to speak with you. I will be here for most of the evening. That is my presentation right now on our guide to filming in Jamaica. If there is any questions, any comments, I would love to hear them. But otherwise, I really appreciate you listening, and I am very, very excited to be doing this. We aim to be delivering this project end of March, mid-May. So this is where we're at. Thank you very much for your time. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Joan. If it is that you have any questions for her, I invite you to share these at the end of today's session. I will now invite our moderator for the first in a series of panels, Ms. Shantala Griffiths, to come. This panel is called Accessing Public Sector Benefits and Facilitation. While she comes up, I also ask that the panelists prepare themselves to go on stage. She will introduce you all. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for being here with us today. I think we're off to a very good start. And so the name of our session today is Accessing Public Sector Benefits and Facilitation. And essentially what we will be discussing is how our various government organizations are here as enablers and facilitators of the creative industries, the kind of support that they provide through their key initiatives and the legislative provisions. And here to help us understand more about this and how you as practitioners can access these benefits, we have from the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the Director of Entertainment, Ms. Dania Beckford. Please welcome her, please. Also from the, yes, you can just go up and have a seat. Also from the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, Visa Manager, Ms. Marie Lou. Welcome her. And we have from the Norman Manley International Airport, Manager for Passenger Terminal, Ms. Naomi Goldburn Rodney. Welcome her, please. Okay. Okay. And this one is on already? So hello again, ladies, and thank you again. So essentially, as I said earlier, we really want to see how our government partners are here assisting us and how they are enablers of the creative industries. And so I'm going to start with Daniel from the ministry. Can you tell us of some of the provisions that you have in place and how, as practitioners, they can access them?
Okay, good morning, everyone. As Shantella says, I'm from the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, specifically the Entertainment Division. And essentially what the Entertainment Division does, it puts in place strategies, policies and programs to benefit the creative economy, specifically entertainment. And I mean all the different industries are included in entertainment, so we touch on basically every one of the industries. Also, what we do is assist in providing exposure for our creative practitioners here in Jamaica through a number of our programs. So let me start with the e-registry. How many persons know about the e-registry? 2 people. 3 persons? 4, 5. And of the 5, 2 persons are from JamPro. Okay, I'm guessing that this is a new audience then. Okay, so the e-registry, what it does is we realized from the portfolio was at the Ministry of Tourism, which it was before it changed to culture, that there is not a place that has all our creative practitioners in one space where we know all of them, we can vouch for them, and we decided that we needed to provide a digital space where we have information on all our practitioners from the different industries, so we're better able to know the types of practitioners that we have and also to provide for them. So that's what the e-registry is. How do you register on the e-registry? Well, the e-registry is completely free to register. Currently we're working on the platform at the ministry to have it completely digital, but it's not completely digital now. So what you have to do is actually email us at the ministry at entertainment@mcges.gov.jm, or you call the ministry and ask for the entertainment division and we'll send one of these forms to you. The information that we need for the registry is really basic. It is your name, your company, if you're an individual and you don't have a company, what is your industry. It's very, very, very basic. We're not trying for the entertainment registry to come and track you down for any taxes. That is not the aim of the entertainment registry. What we really want is information about the creative industry, because one of the things that Renee spoke about when I was walking in is the fact that there is no real reporting system for the work that the entertainment and creative industry does, and it is through the information that's on the registry, because we already have about 700 practitioners on the registry. it's through that information that we can say, okay, we realize that we need to beef up, say, animation, because we only have like 4 persons. This is not a real number. 4 persons in that space, or we need to liaise with customs because now we're realizing that more persons are using drones when they're doing their film, and that's not currently on the tools of trade, and they're having issues. It's through that information on the registry that we know based on what our practitioners put there. So that's a very important one, and hopefully when I'm leaving, I will give my card to every single person because you need to be on the entertainment registry. Do I go on talking?
Yes, I have one question. So you told us that, it's important for them to register, and we're not tracking them down for anything. It's just,
No.
One of the key things is helping capturing the data and how.
Right. So that was a benefit for me. So I'm going to
Right,
give them the benefit for them now.
Right.
So the benefit of being on the register for you is that, from time to time, when sometimes you want to fly out and do some business internationally and the various embassies give you an issue, well, being on the entertainment registry, that provides you with the assistance from us to give you letters of visa attestation, which we do a lot for the persons in the music industry. We don't do it a lot for anybody else right now, but the musicians, they come to us a lot for that. In addition to the visa attestations, when you want to work abroad again and getting work permits in the place that you want to go to, we also will give you your recommendations for that if you are on the registry. Another thing is that when you're applying for fiscal incentives under the Fiscal Incentives Act, which I'm sure Naomi is going to speak to as well because it's joint, if you are not on the registry, then you are not going to be able to get your incentive. So the very first step in applying for your fiscal incentives, which is basically getting your tools of trade duty free, is being on the entertainment registry. So those are some of the benefits right now. Beneficial on a national scale, that information that Renee spoke about, we are through the Film Commission and also with Statting, we're already in talks about having that reporting information about the contribution that the creative arts and creative industry contributes to GDP in the annual report for 18-19. That's going to be in it. But without that information from you on the entertainment registry, among the other things that Renee spoke about, we can't really get a good capture of that.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask Naomi from Customs. Right, I got it right. To just pick up here and tell us a little about your role and how it kind of overlaps with the point that Dana made earlier. Read the FIA and accessing duty-free, read the tools of trade.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'll just back up a little. Jamaicans, we show off, right? You don't have to agree with them, but I know that. Yes, so doing business, we are very serious about our image in doing business. And so you'll find that each government make efforts as to how we can make it better, how we can make it easier for persons to do business. So even as it relates to incentive, you'll find that one industry over there, another one over there who access benefit, and we had the Ministry of Finance who would grant a lot of waivers, and they came a lot of fire for that. And so the Omnibus Incentive Initiative came on stream in 2013, they're around. Yeah, they're around, yes. And so they group the different industries, and so we now have 4 major headings: production and manufacturing, tourism, creative industry, which we're talking about, and the health industry. For creative industry, I'll also state that there are 2 things. We have musical instruments which are free generally, so it's not under this incentive, it's a ministry paper. So musical instruments for anybody, everybody, it's free. The only musical instrument that is not free is the steel pan coming out of Trinidad. Not sure of the reason, but that's the only musical instrument that's not free. But all steel pans, let me take off the Trinidad. Steel pans in general, take off the Trinidad, but that's where most of them come from, for us. I don't know if China start bringing them in yet, because China does everything, right? Fine, so the steel pan, but all musical instruments, you name them, the keyboard, the drums, they're free. Now, for the motion picture industry, and I'll give you a definition, we are talking about Motion picture, it includes voice, music, and other acoustics and accompaniments that is suitable for cinematic viewing, for television broadcasting, and it includes animation, pictures, and picture displays, advertisements. So all of that, when we say motion picture, that's what we are talking about. And the important thing that Dana mentioned is that for you to access that, you must show to the commissioner that you are registered with Dana's ministry. You must show that, otherwise you cannot access that, that incentive. And you must also be a registered taxpayer. Those are two major criteria. Now, having those, then you receive your items duty-free. You'll pay the processing fees, but no import duty, no GCT. All right? Well, there are levels. There are levels, but definitely no import duty. All right? Then I mentioned the requirements, which is crucial, right? If you were a part of another incentive scheme on the old system, you will have the choice of continuing or until 2018, or you would come to the new system where you receive the benefits as stated in the new and the omnibus system. And I mentioned all the things that are under motion picture. Any other question? Question maybe bring out. That's a separate incentive. Items coming from CARICOM, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, that's an exception. Remember, customs, we carry out the functions as per. There you go.
All right, thank you.
Even though we get a lot of beating, but we just carry on. So as I will state, we perform agency function for the different ministries, and so in this case, Dana's ministry would give the directives. So it's agency function. Apart from collecting the duty, most of the work that customs does, because we are on the forefront, we are performing agency function for the different ministries.
Okay, Dana said they wanted to add something else with the FIA.
Right. I'm thinking that we probably need to have a conversation about the steel pan. But what I wanted to mention is that to access the FIA, in addition to being on the entertainment registry, there are a few other things that we need, and I want you to know. We need for you to have a valid tax compliant certificate. We need for you to have registered a business, as Naomi said. We need a business plan, and let me talk about this business plan. Please, when you think about business plan, a lot of persons think about a highfalutin document, and it have to have 30 page and picture and a bag of things. I mean, if that's your liking, that's okay. But for us, I don't want you to be deterred that just because you don't have a business plan that looks like that you can't apply for it. There are certain things that we need to know. What is the business? How does the business work? The operation plan, your budget, things like that. So you don't have to give me a lot of pictures and 30 pages and say, all right, I have the business plan, so I'm not going to apply. No. Keep it simple as long as all that information is there, and I will accept it. And of course, your company profile. If it is that you have persons that you've worked with in your company, that does well for your company profile as well when you're sending it in. And your last year tax. I want to see if you pay the tax. I don't need complete details, but I need to know that you are definitely paying your tax. Because for you to get a relief from customs duty, we need to know that you're actually paying your tax. So those are some of the things that we need. After you submit those documents, we do a site visit. Girl. Checks and balances.
Yes, that's important.
We are innovative people. After you've sent in all of those documents, then we do a site visit. Wherever you say that your operational space is, we come to that space. Again, do not be deterred that, okay, I work from my home, so it's not actually an office. No. We have gone to a lot of places where, especially for film, that persons work from home, and as long as we see that there's a distinct space in your home that you work from, you have your computers or your equipment that you work with, it is fine. We will come, we take pictures, we ask you about how you operate, and then we write a report. That report is a joint report between JAMPRO and us through the Film Commission. So two persons will do this, well, at least two persons will do the site visit. That's me and one person from JAMPRO. We write that report and we send it down to customs to say if it is that we think that, yes, based on what you put in your business plan, based on what you registered and what we see you doing at your place of employment, it all adds up. We say, yes, this person needs to be recommended for this incentive. We send it to customs, we copy TAJ, and we ask you to give them 5 to 7 working days to ensure that it's on your system, after which your very next shipment, we would like to see the details of that shipment. You bring it to JAMPRO, they'll stamp it off, and that's how that works. What you don't have to renew this with us, but within a 3 to 5 year period, we do an audit to ensure that you're still doing the business that you say you're doing. Okay. And that's how that works.
All right, thanks, Dana. So, Mary, I'm going to jump over to you now to tell us about your processes at PICA and how you can facilitate members within the industry.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right. The persons that are online, they can hear you clearly. Okay. All right. Just want to say thanks to JAMPRO for inviting us here. We recognize that there are a number of persons in Jamaica as well as outside who are not so familiar with PICA, Passport Immigration and Citizenship Agency, and what we actually do. So we thank you for inviting us and allowing this forum to speak on our services, right? So PICA, and specifically immigration, what we do is facilitate the entry and exit of Commonwealth citizens and foreign nationals to our shores, in and out of our shores, right? And we tend to say in Jamaica no problem, and we carry that to the widest extent. But there are requirements for persons entering Jamaica, basic entry requirements, visa requirements that must be met, right, before someone is allowed to enter Jamaica. We do have a website which you can access if you are so interested in visiting Jamaica, and it is www.pica.gov.jm. And also we do have a visa unit. Are you hearing me better now? We do have a visa unit which you can also contact for information, and we are at PICA. The email for the visa unit is pica.gov.jm, right? And you can send us an email and we will respond to you in a timely manner, right, for any additional information that you require. But let me just say that for Commonwealth citizens and foreign nationals entering Jamaica, there are certain basic requirements that you are required to meet, and these include a visa requirement. Now, visa requirements are based on, one, your nationality, the purpose of your travel, and the length of stay in Jamaica. Those three requirements determine, right, whether or not you need a visa. There are visa waiver agreements in place for certain nationals, and this happens from time to time between the government of Jamaica and particular countries, right? So it is not, for example, a Chinese national wishing to visit here, they can visit for 30 days, but the purpose of travel that is allowed is tourism. 30 days, tourism only. So if you're conducting business, you require a visa, right? So various countries have various stipulations or requirements that they must meet. And so we invite you to contact us at the visa unit or our website, which you can find the information. All right?
Okay, Mary, just another quick question. So I know, for example, when persons they may visit the island and they're probably on their projects and they realize, oh, I may need additional time. So I know a thing that comes up for us, especially here at Jumper, we have to try and process it for them, is like the extension of stay, right? So can you expound on that? How do you go about that, and what's the procedure like for that?
All right. Persons entering Jamaica are granted usually a minimum 30 days. We don't grant stays for less than that, 30 days minimum. If you decide within that 30 days that you require more time on the island, we encourage you to come in to our extension of stay unit, and this is either at our main location, 25 Constant Spring Road, or at our offices, Overton Plaza in Montego Bay. You must come in before the time you're allowed at the port of entry expires. It is very important for you to do so. So pay attention to that time that you're initially granted at the port. For processing of extensions of stay, the processing cost is 10,000 Jamaican dollars. Right? There is an application form that you can find online as well, or at our offices when you come in. Very simple to complete. What you must have though is evidence of a return ticket or flight itinerary for the intended date of your return home. Your passport must be valid, right? Must have at least 6 months on it. And you must state in writing the reason for wanting to stay longer in the island. All right? What if you don't have a reason? Okay, if you...
Good question.
If you are found on the island beyond the time that you are granted, you are considered to be in breach of our immigration requirements, and you can be brought before the courts, right? Arrested and charged, brought before the courts, and you may be ordered deported. Okay? So it is important that you do. If it is that you find yourself on the island and you wake up and you say, oh, my extension, my time granted has expired, you are still encouraged to come in to us. Don't be afraid. Come in to us. There is a fine for that, and that is 50,000 Jamaican dollars in addition to the processing fee of $10,000. That $50,000 though, you will be required to pay if we decide to grant you that extension. So if you are not granted, then all you will pay is the non-refundable processing fee of 10,000 Jamaican dollars. Okay? So, in other words, if your application is not approved, then you are required to leave on the date that we set, and you must provide that ticket. All right?
Okay, guys, so pay attention to those dates and those deadlines.
Right.
For Dania and Naomi, two things I want to raise. Read the FIA. There's also the ETC, the Employment Tax Credit. Does that apply to the creative industries practitioners? And also the bond waiver facility that is in place for bringing in equipment. Can you expound on that? And is it only for international practitioners? Can local practitioners also benefit from that?
Let me clarify about the GCT that I mentioned earlier. You pay duty is free, right? And GCT is payable. Only in the case where you are registered as a producer and you are bringing in machinery and materials, say for building a studio or for motion picture itself, then that would have been duty-free. GCT and stamp duty, you'll pay just processing fee for that. If you're building a studio, in those cases, then you would have both GCT and import duty and stamp duty where applicable. But otherwise, it's the incentive is talking about duty-free, right? Customs duty,
So
import
they'll still
duty.
pay like your environmental level and
Yes.
your CAF, for example.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
under any circumstance,
Right.
you pay those
Okay.
fees.
Yes, a question.
Yes, there is a. You're speaking about visa requirements now, right? Right. All Cubans entering Jamaica, wishing to enter Jamaica, must have an entry visa prior to arrival, and they can obtain that visa at our Jamaican mission in Havana, where they'll make the application. Right? The person who is inviting them right, must act as sponsor, and they also must submit documentation locally at our visa office, 25 Constant Spring Road, right? Further details on that can also be found on our website or contacting the visa unit. I can give you that number if you're interested. All right?
Any more questions? You wanted to clarify something, Daniel?
Not clarify, but just give additional information that one of the things that we have also undertaken as a division of the Ministry of Culture is that based on the fact that Kingston was designated a Creative City of Music in 2015, there is a Creative Cities network that is in place through UNESCO, and what happens is that with practitioners they have a Creative Cities exchange. So there are 21 other Creative Cities of Music, Hamamatsu, Katowice, and a bunch of others, who are actually going to be coming to Jamaica in February. There is a Creative Cities Network meeting that Jamaica is hosting in Reggae Month. We asked to host it in Reggae Month because we really wanted to show off on the other creative cities so that they could come here and see what happens in Jamaica at that time. But the exchange that I'm speaking about is with musicians. So far last year, or was it last year, Nomads and Freddie McGregor and one more that I can't remember right now, they went to Hamamatsu for their music festival. So being on the registry that's also a benefit where musicians are concerned, where you're considered for that type of exchange. Also, because our Minister Grange, is so in tune to the festival economy, because it's one of the areas that we see that the economy can really grow from, we have started to, since last year, endorse and also sponsor festivals. So whereas we may not be able to give big money like Red Stripe and those others, we are able to do other things. For example, for the Youth View Awards, that is now Your View Awards, we have sponsored them their venue, which was a very big cost for them, but you know that venue is also a government venue, so it works out. So being on the entertainment registry through your company or individual, you are able to access some of these benefits. With regards to what Pika spoke about also, for festivals such as Sumfest and some of the other festivals, when the artists come in for a short period of time and we liaise with the Ministry of Labor, we can also, based on the circumstances and the period of time, grant waivers to the payment of the time that they spend here. So it's a good thing to be on the registry because it's a bunch of benefits that practitioners get.
Let me just clarify what Dana was talking about in terms of waivers. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security is the authority that grants work permits for persons entering Jamaica and engaging in employment. And employment would, in this case, would be your performance at a music festival, right? So with Daniel's ministry, an application can be made to the Ministry of Labor for the waiving of the work permit requirement in that particular case, right? In that same breath, the promoter, Jampro, whoever it is that's making the application on the person's behalf, may also contact our Ministry of National Security, who is our parent ministry, requesting waiver of the visa requirement if it's the person is so required to have a visa. All right?
You wanted to say something?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Naomi.
Just a bit more information. In terms of persons coming with equipment for temporary use, we have it difficult sometimes. The system is in place for Jampro, and I have to really congratulate them on that initiative, even though they pass the responsibility onto the customs brokers. But I mean, it's an initiative. There's facilities there for the company person coming from abroad with their equipment, whether it's cinematographic or whatever equipment, and it's temporary import, because where customs sit, as long as it's over $500 and it's not personal and household effect, we need a duty, right? And if you can't produce the duty, then you need to show us or tell us why you should get this item. So for those musical equipment, and you find that some of those TV stations and one camera is about 5 times my salary for the year, right? And so the initiative is there where once Jampro is approached, then the brokers that Jampro would that you would approach the brokers, right? Or the company sometimes approach the brokers.
It's usually the companies
Will
that approach the brokers.
Right. But the letter that we get from Jampro is stating that the brokers have the undertaking to ensure that the equipment comes in and goes out. And customs takes that. That tells you that we hold the word of Jampro and those brokers that have that have the responsibility in high regard, because we are taking their word that they will ensure that these equipment comes in and that they are re-exported. So the broker has that undertaking. So once these persons come, if the contact is made, then they won't have to have the difficulty at customs. The arrangement will be made, the broker would come, do the processing of the entries, the items are released, and on the way out, the brokers will also ensure that the equipment that came in went out, and that smooth sailing. So if you'd communicate, once you are aware that there are groups who are coming here, ensure that all of that is in place so that when they come to customs, we don't have any difficulties.
Are there any questions? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yes.
Are there any specific concerns that you need part of the solution include because you mentioned Commonwealth countries.
Yes.
So is there anything that you see something similar?
All right.
Also in your mind.
Well, let me just say this. For persons who are intending to go to other countries, the onus is on them to meet the requirements of that particular country. PICA does not have any jurisdiction on that process. Or as it relates to departure, right? We facilitate departure of the person going out, yes? And so we don't necessarily restrict or are responsible for the requirements of the other country, right?
That you're going to.
The other, right.
There are certain give and take about certain. We, for example, as can go into certain restaurants, your restaurants, to do something in Nigeria, whatever the kind of is there a similar is there a similar provision for Europeans who want to do business with us in the creative industries to be allowed to come in for a certain time under certain conditions, blah blah blah, to be able to do whether it's film or music or so on, because the agreement allows for certain reciprocity in certain areas under different conditions depending on who. So I think that's what.
Okay, understood.
Thank you very much.
Understood. All right. Those persons would still have to meet the entry requirements based on their nationality, their respective nationalities. Right.
Okay.
Alright, so you will have it on the books, but nobody knows about it. You will take it up.
Right.
That's
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because
You have a follow-on question?
yes. one of the other hats I wear is I'm camera crew and like, and we are engaged in the business of facilitating film production. Unfortunately, for example, we offer our incubator, our annual incubator, which happens in actually week to 10 days before TIFF actually, and Renee has been one of our excellent facilitators and speakers at it for a couple of years now. We actually have a what you call it, like a pilot funding program for the top films that are selected. But what we are doing now is encouraging people to produce, do films in the region. So getting a one-stop shop environment is very helpful for us. What has just been described is still very much several layers. Ministry of Labor, JAMPRO, culture, customs. Yeah, the transaction cost tends to be extremely high. One. But in some countries, I don't know if it's the case in Jamaica, there's something called an ATA CANE, which is executed through chambers of commerce. I don't know if that has been the case in Jamaica, if you have something like that. There are a few countries that have it. I think Trinidad has it. I don't know if it's still in operation, but it was in operation at one point in time. And that helps to create almost a one-stop shop type framework. So it just makes life easier for the film producers. So I don't know if there's something along those lines. And then my last point is, well, we'll talk maybe about steel pans afterwards, because what was said seems a bit troubling from a trade policy standpoint, that steel pans, which is a regional product, could be considered an exception from the duty-free or tariff-free structure that you have in place. So maybe we could talk about that afterwards. Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much.
In Renee's presentation, she mentioned us moving towards more of what you spoke about regarding the one-stop shop. That's not what she called it, but having JAMPRO be that face of, oh, that's what you called it? Oh, it must be before I stepped in. Having JAMPRO be the face of that type of interaction. So we actually do have it in mind, because we do realize that there are a number of layers to it, and so we're actually moving towards that.
All right, thank you very much. I think we're actually at the end of our panel now. If there aren't any other questions, no. Okay, so just any final words, Naomi? Is there anything you want, and any nuggets you want to leave us with?
Just maybe putting my foot in my mouth, and I'm famous for doing that. But JAMPRO, as far back as, it's more than 15 years, if not more. Because I remember Trade Point started, and we're working at that. And I don't know if it's each government or whatever, but it just never gets where it's supposed to go in terms of JAMPRO being that body that sees to everybody comes through that Trade Point and everything is done. So when you come to customs, you have everything. And I hope this time, though, JAMPRO, that we can really get it done, because it's been a long time in coming.
Where do I go?
I think that is where
you have to get it out to the investor, because I lived in Canada, and coming back home to Jamaica, it was extremely difficult. Every day I said, my God, what got into me to come back to Jamaica? Every point is stress. Every point is stress. If you go into passport office, my passport, give you an example, I went to get a telephone SIM card. Between here and there, they destroyed my passport. They cut out the picture between my eyes and there. I was traveling the next day. Passport office gave me the time of my life. Why you come back to Jamaica? I don't know any JP in Jamaica. I need to go and get JP to sign the document. It was the living hell. To this day, I cannot understand what got into me to come back to Jamaica to say I am doing something. It is very, very difficult. And there is no sort of buffer to say, well, this person will help you to settle in. You need JP, you need a TRN number. So we need a central point. When if you're going to Jamaica, this is what you need to do, ABC, and because it is extremely frustrating. There's no central information point to say, this is what you need to do. And let me tell you, it's not for me alone. Thanks.
All right, let me just jump in. So there are two kind of answers to that question. One, that is why we've taken on the initiative as it relates specifically to film, read the guide to filming in Jamaica that can outline the processes and the steps that are required specifically for the industry and as practitioners, how you go about getting started and setting up here locally. As it relates to the wider ecosystem that you are referring to, I'm not sure if you have heard about it in the media, but there is the eGov system that Jampro and your other partners are involved in, where we are actually initiating a business portal. And what essentially this will do is link all our major government organizations that are involved in, for example, issuing any required permits or licenses as it relates to setting up a business, or you as an investor investing in Jamaica. So for example, you need to go and register your business. It will be one online platform where you can go in, you start your processes or your application for these various permits, and the organization will have the ability to go in on the back end to either give you a full approval or a pre-approval to you coming here. So it kind of like it's streamlining the systems and creating that one-stop shop that we have been trying so desperately to put in place. And a lot of work has gone into it, and we're at an advanced stage. So that is in the pipeline to come on soon for us to be able to have that streamlined system.
So that is for the investment side.
Right.
And that's for the investment or the business processes, business processes in general. But in terms of information, because you now need to get to somebody who will tell you about right. So the consulates are supposed to have the information, and I'm not leaving out Jampro because they do give the general information and direct persons in the right direction. So Jampro and in the country from where you're moving, the consulates, they are supposed to have that information to give you to direct. I've gotten calls from England, for the embassy there, just clarifying somebody walking and they don't want to clarify. So the consulate should have the information to give, or to at least point you in the right direction.
Residents Association of Jamaica also will be able to help you in relocating to Jamaica. So there it is.
You had a question? No? Exactly. That's why I mentioned the guide specifically to the industry.
That can be kept at work. Sorry, the guide. This is what I was speaking to about being equipped to succeed, because now at these national delegations or at our embassies, at our consulates, after Renee leaves and touches, remember she mentioned to start, it's a lean team of 3 or 4 serving 6 or 7 industries. When we have this record and this guidebook now, you can pick it up. So it really equips us to do so much more.
Yes, Daniel?
We're actually doing the opposite of what you're doing in our ministry. We're providing a guide for our specifically musicians and the film industry through Renee of what they do when they go somewhere else.
They go external.
So ours is called the Outer Road Handbook.
Oh, that's useful.
Right.
Okay. All right, I want to thank the lovely ladies on my panel for joining us today, and I hope the information that was shared here was useful, and thank you for coming. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Shantalo. All right, everyone, I want to impose upon you the importance of us resuming on time. We are going to break. We're going to break now for the lunch break, and we want to come back at 1:30 sharp. I encourage you to partake in the refreshments upstairs, so you can go on the road for lunch, but you also have that as an alternative. That's in our lunchroom upstairs, and it's light refreshment. Let me emphasize, light refreshment. So you have that as an option. Or if you want something heavier, you can go on the road, but please come back in time for 1:30. At that point, we will be going into a presentation by our town clerk, Mr. Robert Hill. He is town clerk for the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. And that will be a presentation on filming in Kingston. So, go. No one wants to move? All right, thank you, everyone.
That you're running to time. Everyone's just so disoriented.